How to Delegate Edition, presented by myself, Kyle Bacchus, the Kappa Kappa Psi Southeast District Parliamentarian. So what exactly is a delegate? So a delegate is an active brother serving as a representative for an active chapter. So any active chapter in the Southeast District has the opportunity to submit a delegate who will serve district or national convention, whichever one they are able to attend. If a chapter does not submit a delegate, of course, one can be provided for them by another chapter as chosen by the district council. So how exactly is that person selected? So that person is called a proxy. I should have mentioned that. But if a chapter is unable to submit if a chapter is unable to send a delegate to represent them, a brother from another chapter would be assigned. If they filled out the delegate proxy form, which is sent out every spring, then they'll have three choices, basically listing out their top three other chapters who could fill in for them in the unfortunate circumstance that they're not able to send a delegate themselves. If they don't submit that form, though, then the next chapter alphabetically is selected. So what I mean by that is this past district convention, I forget exactly which chapter was the last one assigned a delegate, but we'll say it was Theta Eta. So Theta Eta was the last one selected. At the start of this next, forgive me, I can't speak my words right now. At the beginning of this next Southeastern District Convention, if the first chapter that does not have a representative would be then given the next chapter, which would be Theta Theta, UAB. So, and so on and so forth. So that's done until every single position is filled, no matter what, as long as every single active chapter has somebody serving as a delegate or as a proxy for them. A chapter, unfortunately, can only have 3 delegates serving as their own delegates and 2 proxies for any chapter. So what exactly is the role of a delegate? Well, delegates will vote on all business or bring business forward. They will basically do everything that is needed at district convention. I keep trying to say district council, but so they do everything from electing officers, deciding on changes to the Constitution. They approve budgets, which is part of approving committee reports, which we'll get to in just a minute. They do things like they bring forth new business to the convention, and of course, they determine the next convention location. So what kind of things can be done? I'm getting through this a little bit faster than I meant to. I'm very sorry. But so different things like points of order, points of information, points of parliamentary inquiry. These are all basically statements that can be made by a delegate. Point of order basically is bringing the delegation back into order, and this can be approved at the discretion of the president or whoever is currently leading discussion. Point of information is essentially asking for, is essentially the delegate asking for more information about a given subject. So they may feel that they're not well enough versed on a subject to make a decision either way. So they ask for a point of information to get just factual information about that one specific topic. Once again, that is determined by the president. Point of parliamentary inquiry. So this is essentially asking the parliamentary procedure, the constitutionality of a certain process of how things have gone. So if there were any confusion or anything like that, a delegate would raise their hand, ask for a point of parliamentary inquiry, and state what they feel has gone wrong, in which case the president would either say, yes, you're correct, or if they were unsure, they would consult the parliamentarian, who in this coming district convention will be me. Once again, that is approved or disapproved by the president at their discretion. Other things like motions. So this is basically saying, I motion to open debate, which would be, I am motioning to begin discussion on a topic, either for or against. Basically just trying to get more feedback, trying to get more, of course, discussion going. This does not need to be, this is not at the president's discretion. This simply needs a second delegate to approve of that initial motion. Motion to close debate, on the other hand, I believe requires a majority vote of the delegates. So if a majority of the delegates believe that there is still more that needs to be said, more that needs to be discussed, then they have the ability to say, no, we don't want to close this debate. We want to continue discussion. Motion to table an issue puts off whatever topic is at hand until a later time. This will most likely not be used during district conventions, or really likely not at national convention either, because time is such a constraint. We really need to get through every issue that's brought up as quickly and as effectively as possible. If there is an issue where maybe Saturday night an issue is brought forth and we maybe don't have all the information, or we don't have something that is absolutely vital to have in order to make a decision on a subject, then that would be the case where we would table that issue until the following morning at the last separate session for the day. As I said, that is a little bit more iffy, but I believe that is that also requires a majority vote. So, motioning to enter a consultative session. So as a delegate, as I mentioned, you are a representative of your chapter. But the way that you're seated in the sessions, you are alone with your other delegates. You're completely separated from your chapter, from anyone who you may need to consult on a certain issue, in which case you would make a motion to enter a consultative session, which basically requires the president to then approve that, set a certain time limit, so say like 5-10 minutes. You would then disband, go and talk to your chapter, and come back once you feel like you have all the information that you need to make a real decision. This, I believe, was used a few times this past Southeastern District Convention, mostly during the election process, as it's some situations, or I'm trying to find my words, I'm sorry. Certain situations are a little bit more black and white, whereas with elections and those proceedings, it's more important to get the feel for from your chapter as to which candidate you should be voting for. I know personally, my chapter had 2 delegates, and we simply, when it came to elections, we asked for all of our chapter members present to vote, and then did with that, or we took their decision to the ballot, is essentially what we did. So I hope that makes sense as far as motioning to enter a consultative session. So that consultative session would end after whatever time limit was set by the district president. Moving forward, motion to adopt an amendment by acclamation. This is essentially saying there is basically universal universal praise for an amendment, or it's something that nobody is going to say no to. So a motion to adopt an amendment by acclamation is decided by the president, at which point they will say all in favor. The delegation will say, or those who approve of the amendment will say aye. And if there are any who say nay following that, then it takes the motion into a vote. It doesn't matter even if there's like 30,000 people who all yell aye. If there's just one nay after that, you have to take it into a vote. Because there's no real way to quantify just a bunch of people saying yes or no. Moving forward, motion to vote is fairly straightforward. It is simply moving you out of a debate session and into that voting session that's needed to move on from the topic. So a motion to vote requires a second from another delegate, in which case it then moves to a vote of the entire delegation. So this can be done however the president or whoever is presiding over the discussion and vote see fit. In the case of election, it's done by secret ballot. Most other instances, it will simply be done by raising your placard, and then those placards being counted. Let me see. Then the motion to add an agenda topic. Once again, this is something that will most likely not come up during one of our conventions, but in the case that it was needed, I decided to include it. It is simply a motion to add an agenda topic, or something, basically an issue that needs to be resolved to the agenda. Most of these will already be laid out ahead of time, like all of the committee reports, all of the election topics, anything that needs to be addressed by the Southeastern District delegation or the National Convention delegation should already be on the agenda. But if not, you have that option there. Of course, these are just some examples. Everyone's favorite is, of course, the motion to close. I know that personally in my chapter, we kind of fight over who gets to give the motion to close. And by fight, I mean just vehemently raise our hands. And
are you talking about at SED convention?
Well, yes, at SED convention as well as within my own chapter, motion to close is a very popular thing. I know that I think when you asked for when you entertain a motion to close, I like shot up out of my seat with my placard in my hand, trying to get recognized for that. But yeah, it's I'm not sure why it's so. Well, I know why it's so popular, but you know what I mean. But essentially, it is exactly what it says. It closes the current session and moves on into a well, it moves on into nothing. If we're in separate session, a motion closes that separate session, we would then move on to the next thing on the agenda, which I believe for us would be the joint session of the Southeastern District Convention. But let me see. So when can you do any of this? As I said, this is all, much of the time of the separate sessions have been kind of laid out in advance, agenda-wise. Usually the first and second separate sessions are kind of reserved for giving announcements, giving information, officers giving their reports, things like that. So most of this will come into play during the last separate session or the last two separate sessions and the final joint session. So mostly just when it comes to committee reports, election results, anything else that needs to be resolved, in regards to like the Constitution changes or anything like that, that would be the time for this discussion, debate, and vote process. Though, as I mentioned here, if something urgent comes up and it needs to be resolved by the district, if the president hasn't already made time for it, then you can motion to add an agenda topic, add it on, and have that discussed in the allotted time. So regarding committees, so of course delegates are also the ones who we pull out to serve as members of committees. So within the committee you have a student advisor, usually an adult advisor, or basically a life or alumni member who is either serving as governor or national officer or some position other than after having been an active brother. So you have your two advisors, your chair, who is selected out of anyone interested. As I mentioned, there will be a form in which you will select, you as a delegate will select which committees you are interested in, and out of those, which you would be interested in chairing. And there is an application for all of that. Chairs and committee members are selected by the district president, unless that individual is running for re-election, in which case the members of the nominations committee are actually selected by essentially the next district officer who is not running up for a position. For instance, if both the president and vice president of membership for the district are both running for a district office again for the following year, then the vice president of programs would be the one who would decide the members of the nominations committee. I have all of the committees listed here on this slide below. So we've got programs, joint actions, nominations, jurisdiction, ways and means, road to wisdom, and the eighth note. That asterisk beside the eighth note is simply because the eighth note committee is determined well before district council, or district, my apologies, district convention, not district council. See, that has taken 20 minutes. So are there any questions at this point? Is there anyone aside from myself and Bree?
Andrew's still here.
Oh, hey. Sorry, I cannot see.
Oh, you're good.
At all.
No, I was just listening while I was doing laundry, so I thought like.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
No, honestly, I don't have any questions.
All right.
It seems all like pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Bree, you were saying something?
Yeah, I'd like to add in some, I think this was really great on like the logistics of being a delegate and things like that. But just some of the like fun side of being delegate and some of the like actual experience from it.
Yes.
It is so cool. It is so cool to have that placard and to be able to raise it and make decisions like that. When I was at NatCon 2017, I got to vote on whether the Road to Wisdom would be adopted or not. And that is so freaking cool, right? So I just think that being a delegate gives you a closer look into the fraternity and its operations, especially when you get to committees too. So serving on, see, Kyle gets it. Serving on national and district committees is so cool. Because you get the opportunity to be a front runner in the future of the fraternity. Now, I think like that's a really cool opportunity for you, but I think also something to keep in mind is that you are a voice for other people. And with the new age technology that we have, you know, creating a group chat that's, you know, with the people who are interested in the business of the convention, and that sort of thing is so important. And it's something to where they can communicate with you quickly, communicate because, for example, at national and district conventions, only people who are allowed to ask questions, who are allowed to, interrupt in the business of the meeting are people with those placards. So to be able to have that group chat for people to contribute is so important. But I just think it's so cool. And it really dives you deep into the operations of the district, of the fraternity as a whole. And really, most of the time, you only have the chance while you're an active brother, because active brothers have that priority over those things. So unless nobody from the active chapter shows up, then as an alumni or something like that, you can have the chance. But most of the time, that doesn't happen. So to have that opportunity as an active brother, it's one of those things that, you just get this time for. And I think that everybody should go for it and, take that opportunity. But like I said, it really gives you that front runner view of the happenings of the fraternity at the time, and really allows you specifically in committees. Our committees are closed, a lot of them. So it's just, you have that opportunity to be there. You know what I mean? And I think that, you get to voice your opinions and really affect change in the fraternity. And I just think that's so cool. Plus, I love district and national convention. You get to meet so many brothers and sisters and things like that. And I think placards are cool. Look at Kyle's placards. Like, isn't that a cool detail?
Yeah, so this one is from Orlando, 2017, actually. Mm-hmm. And then this one was, of course, the one that we used this past year at district convention. I keep trying to say district council instead, but yeah, district convention. But yeah, and jumping off of that, like there are people that I met at NatCon 2017, like a girl that I sat to who was from Texas. I literally have not seen her since then, but like I've got like this picture of us that has literally been in my wallet since that convention. And yeah, like I've made so many close friends, not even like within my chapter, within my district, by serving as a delegate and just kind of being immersed with all these other people from across the country. And not just that, but having served on 2 committees during my time, during those 2 conventions, really kind of broadened my viewpoint of everything within Kappa Kappa Psi, like serving on the Ritual and Regalia Committee at 2017's National Convention, and getting to actually make changes to the ritual as it currently stands was incredible to me. I was just mind blown that I got that opportunity. And then having served on the programs committee at this past district convention, honestly, I had no idea about most of the programs of the district before I served on that committee, but now I feel like I have such an intimate knowledge into how they function, how they work, and what's expected of them, that I feel a lot more prepared as a brother in regards to all those things. But yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to interrupt you. Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool. I was wondering, so you can be a delegate while also holding like another position at your chapter?
Absolutely. So delegates are selected by the chapter. So really anyone who is a chapter member, especially an active chapter member, can serve as delegate. I was vice president of membership when I served as delegate this past year at district council. I had just stepped down from president in 2017 when I was selected as delegate for national convention. So you can absolutely serve as both a chapter officer and as a delegate at convention. The only thing preventing you from serving as delegate is serving as a district officer, at least on the district level. So Brianna and I could not serve as as an officer of the district while also serving as a delegate without having to first step down in order to serve in that capacity.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I have to go. I really, it was really cool watching this presentation. I'm about to head out to the